on behalf of the General Officer Commanding Brigadier General Alani Akinrinade, who was at that point in Lagos. As efforts were being made within the military to crush the revolt, university students in Lagos and Ibadan, among others, took to the streets to protest at the coup. Later, when it became known that Dinka had visited the British High Commission on the day of the coup, some students attacked British and American facilities in Lagos. The coup attempt eventually failed 7 hours later, crushed by forces rallied and directed from a temporary base at Boni Camp by Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma, the Chief of Army Staff, whose designated assassin, reportedly Lieutenant Lawrence Garba, had chosen at the last moment to spare him at the Marina Jetty, allegedly in part to avoid collateral casualties. When Danjuma got to the office and heard the radio broadcast, he held a brief war council with Brigadier Generals Godwin Alabi Isama and Alani Akinrinade and Colonels Domkat Bali and Ibrahim Babangida, then moved to Boni Camp to coordinate the resistance. Babangida was sent on a motorcycle by Brigadier General Alabi Isama to Ikeja Cantonment to get armored vehicles. Supported by these vehicles, he proceeded to Radio Nigeria, where he had a conversation with his close friend Dinka. Dinka's initial reaction to Babangida's arrival was to ask him if he came to play Chukuma and Wanwo with him, drawing a historical parallel with the negotiations between Colonel Conrad Wanwo on behalf of General Ironsi and Major Patrick Chukuma Kaduna Nzogu in Kaduna in January of 1966. However, Dinka got concerned with the presence of armored vehicles in the background and asked them to be withdrawn. But it turns out that Babangida's orders had not been to negotiate a surrender or other outcome, but to stop the broadcast by any means necessary, including destruction by shelling. When he made contact with Boni Camp to report his activities at the radio station, this order was reiterated to him by General Danjuma. Incredulous. When shooting started, Dinka simply walked away past all the soldiers surrounding the building, as well as driving through numerous checkpoints on his way, first to Jos, and then eventually to southeastern Nigerian town of Abakaliki, where he handed himself over to the police. Let me make something pointedly clear here. People have come out with stories that Dinka was captured, but the very policeman who was promoted for capturing Dinka came out several years later to say he was on his own. Dinka brought himself and introduced himself, that he was Lieutenant Colonel Dinka. That Dinka actually surrendered himself. Nobody captured him. So that is the story. At that time, public incredulity at his escape from Radio Nigeria led to speculations that he was assisted. But many years later, in April of 1990, a similar escape from a siege of supposedly loyal troops was executed by Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Iyam and Major Saliba Mukoro. General Olusegun Obasanjo retired. A lot of people now prefer to call him President Olusegun Obasanjo. Has written that he was late in leaving home that day on account of a visit by Brigadier General Olubajowa to get a name for his new baby. When it became apparent that there was trouble, Obasanjo executed an escape and evasion maneuver, spent most of the day at the house of a civilian friend in Ikoyi, monitoring the situation by telephone, but later emerged to become the head of state. You can read Obasanjo's book, Not My Will. Yeah, Not My Will. You can read that book. You can get it at the bookshops at Rampam Street. I got a lot of these books yesterday, and I'll just advertise some of them to you here. Eminent Bookshop Limited, Rampam Street. You can get most of these books there. Yes, later on I will get the books and just show them to you, particularly those of you that are following us on social media. Even I got another copy of The Tragedy of Victory. I got another copy of Tragedy of Victory by Brigadier General Godwin Alabi Sama yesterday, and I got another copy of Why We Struck. I got another copy yesterday. If you want these books, if you cannot go to Rampam, so you want to buy from me, fine. I'm a businessman now. You can call Ayuba. I'll give you the number later, and I'll tell you my price. So I also sell these books too, if you want to have them. As I will always advise, you can get these books for your kids. It's very important for children to read these books. Very, very important for children, particularly, to read these books. But it is disastrous for adults and elders who don't want to read at all. It's disastrous. For children, it's encouraging for them to read these books so they will know where they are coming from. Obasanjo will-be assassins mistook him for then Colonel Raymond Dumuje. And Raymond Dumuje was attacked. He was shot at and seriously wounded on alongside along Awolowo Road in Lagos. The specifics of how that happened remain a matter of conjecture, particularly since the car of a lieutenant general would have had 3 stars mounted on the license plate. Whether Dumuje was riding in Obasanjo's car is a curious possibility that has never been clarified. Or perhaps the hitmen were drunk and could not tell one flag from another. Subsequent evidence, allegedly based on documents and tapes discovered at the station, suggests that Dimka had actually planned a second broadcast, which he never got to make. The Obasanjo regime, however, later issued a public statement proffering its own explanation for the Dinka coup attempt. It gave 4 reasons. First of the reasons the Obasanjo regime gave is that the plotters felt the Murtala government was abandoning Nigeria's traditional non-aligned posture and going communist. The second reason is that the plotters were opposed to recent army promotions and the appointment of Danjuma as chief of army staff. The third reason that the plotters intended to restore General Gowon to office, while the fourth reason, the plotters intended to restore all previous military governors to office, as well as restore all retired public servants back to office. Any subsequent retirement was to be based on legal due process, as at the time, about 11,000 civil servants and over 200 army officers had been summarily retired across the country. 7 days of national mourning were declared and flags flew at half-mast. Following up on the opinion of the Obasanjo regime at the time that General Gowon knew and by implication approved of the plot based on Dinka's testimony regarding a brief encounter during a trip he had earlier made to London. A formal request for him to be extradited from Britain was made on the 24th of March 1976. General Gowon himself strongly denied the charge. The British government rejected the extradition request and made it plain through back channels that if the Nigerian government insisted too strongly on getting Gowon back, Nigerian leaders should be prepared to deal with British coldness if as individuals they one day find themselves in exile. Publicly, diplomatic relations with Britain, however, took a nosedive, and Gowon without trial was dismissed as an officer in the Nigerian Armed Forces. He was later reinstated by President Shehu Shagari. As expected, mass arrests were made after the coup failed, not just of active duty and retired soldiers, but also civilians. Major C.D. Dabang, an inner circle officer, whom a lot of people believe was the original ringleader of the coup and not Dinka, had pleaded with the plotters to delay the plot until he was well enough to take part, because at that point in time he was undergoing treatment at the military hospital in Lagos. When soldiers arrived, disconnected his drip and took him away. But at the time of the coup, he was in hospital. Many important figures of the Gowon era were arrested and quizzed. There are a lot of people arrested at the time who are very lucky to be alive today. At least 2 board of inquiries sat, including those chaired by Brigadiers Obada and Eromobo. Death sentences passed by a separate special military tribunal and were confirmed by the Supreme Military Council. However, it remains unclear to this day to what extent certain individuals who were shot were actually involved in the Dinka coup. Among others, some names keep coming in frequently, and it is believed that these people were innocent. Police Commissioner J.D. Gomwok and Colonel A.D.S. Weah are frequently mentioned. The first batch of executions was announced by Brigadier General Shehu Musa Yaradua, who had just been double promoted from the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He went on television, NTA Channel 10, to say they are being shot about now. This was followed by the next morning by a gleeful headline in the Daily Times that read, 32 shot in round 1. Another batch, including Dinka himself, was to follow later. However, 2 NCOs, Sergeant Clement Yilda and Corporal Dauda Usman, escaped and were never found. They were declared wanted. To this day, they have not surfaced. Others were retired or dismissed or imprisoned. General Gowon's relatives in the armed forces were hunted out or jailed. But in 1981, a former member of the Supreme Military Council, Lieutenant General Alani Akinrinade, retired, openly admitted in an interview with the Punch newspaper that there wasn't a strong case against General Gowon. Although the new Obasanjo-led team that came to office against Obasanjo's personal wish and desire pledged to continue along the footsteps of Mohammed, the so-called Dinka coup had lasting military and non-military, judicial, domestic and foreign policy effects. It was the first time since the executions of Colonel Victor Banjo, Major Emmanuel Ifejuna and their civilian friends Sam Agbamuchi and Philip Alale on the 25th of September 1967 in Enugu, following death sentence passed on them by a special military tribunal instituted by Odumego Ojukwu, the breakaway Biafran secessionist leader, that anyone was being executed for that alleged offense within Nigeria's colonial borders. It led to the promulgation by the Obasanjo regime of certain retrospective decrees which made concealment of treason an offense punishable with a life sentence and created new special military tribunal laws justifying mass executions for coup participation, which have remained with us until the recent initiative in the legislature. Indeed, when General Obasanjo was tried in 1995 on suspicion of concealment of treason by the Abacha regime, it was the law he signed into effect just under 20 years before, which was pulled off the shelf and used to charge him. It later emerged that the charge was frivolous and he was lucky to survive the Abacha Gulag. However, it did not escape notice that others charged under that decree in the past may not have been so lucky. Indeed, notions of treason and treasonable felony in Nigerian military tribunal law and other consistency with the governing laws of Nigeria still need to be revisited. And the complex intrigues of the coup investigative process also need to be addressed. There are people who were officially cleared of all charges relating to the Dinka coup in 1976 who still barely escaped getting shot on contract at Kirikiri prison. The Dinka coup was a national security embarrassment. Efforts by then Inspector General of Police MD Yusuf to resign were rebuffed. But the coup led directly to the creation of the National Security Organization, whose first director then, Brigadier General Abdullahi Mohammed, was recalled from his post as the governor. However, the existence since 1976 of the NSO and its byproduct, the DSS, did not stop coups in Nigeria, as events since then demonstrated. Coups had to stop naturally due to the settings within the military today, which makes coup attempts mere suicide missions. Except for the use of Pojo cars, the so-called low-profile policy of the Mohammed regime was largely jettisoned. Key figures became better protected by accompanying troops. The Brigade of Guards was disbanded and new troops rotated in. The leadership style of the regime changed, Mohammed's hard charging, occasionally impulsive style was replaced by a steadier and level headed but dictatorial approach. Then Brigadier General Shehu Yar'Adua's new role in the Trioca as Chief of Staff Supreme Headquarters launched him into his subsequent national political career when he left office. Other relationships forged in the trials and tribulations of the painful events surrounding the Dinka coup were to last for many years after, such as that between President Olusegun Obasanjo, his defense minister, Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma, retired, and his chief of staff, Major General Abdullahi Mohammed, retired. Then they were all together, in the Obasanjo regime as a civilian president from 1999 to 2003, possibly because of their previous relationship when they worked together as military officers. Although already known for toughness from his July 1966 and Civil War days, General Danjuma's stature as a man in charge of the army was reinforced by his bold leadership during the coup. Indeed, he could quite easily have taken over the country if he wanted, assuming meanings would not have been read into it by geopolitical pundits. But Godwin Alabi Isama is disagreeing with that. In his book, The Tragedy of Victory, he said he personally stopped Danjuma from assuming power, that Danjuma really wanted to be head of state, and they were planning to hijack the coup. That is Lieutenant General Theophilus Danjuma, as well as Colonel Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and he caught them while they were hatching the plans, and he gave them stern warning that he was going to roll out his troop if they try anything funny. Then Colonel Ibrahim Babangida became a pop hero for supposedly flushing Dinka out of Radio Nigeria, although the exact nature of his negotiation with Dinka at NBC was never clarified. He was to emerge again on the national scene in 1983 and 1985. It was not until an interview with The Guardian with Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Anthony Iyam in April of 2000 that the unsung role of Colonel Chris Ogokwe, retired at the radio station that day in 1976, became public knowledge. The diplomatic effects, particularly on Anglo-Nigerian relations, have been discussed. Both countries recalled their ambassadors, and it was not until 1979 that the resident Nigerian High Commissioner in London was replaced. Domestically, the coup crystallized political tensions between the Muslim far north and the Christian middle belt, which were not altogether new, but have persisted in one form or another. As can be recognized, most of those executed were of Plateau State origin, but the curious notion of a Plateau coup in the army never did die. It resurrected many years later as a Lantang. Lastly, it made the late General Murtala Mohammed a cult hero. According to General James Oluleye, who was then finance commissioner, quite apart from a state funeral, naming monuments after him, and fulfilling obligations for his pension and gratuity as a four-star general, the government infused a large amount of cash directly into his estate to protect his family from any future financial embarrassment. Yes, that was the situation. Well, we are going on a short break, and when we come back, I'll recommend some books to you. We are going on one music break. The program remains Issues in Perspective, and I'm your anchor. My name is Umbum Ferdinand, as you all know. A lot of people have known me over the years for sports, but for a lot of listeners, this is somewhat strange. Well, let's take this call before we just go on this break. Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, Mr. Ferdinand.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ferdinand. I'm calling from Palm Street. Amici is my name.
Oh, Amici, you're welcome to the show. Your contribution quickly.
Thank you very much. Honestly, I want to thank you seriously for this lecture you've given us this morning about the event that took place during Murtala Mohammed assassination. Although I was a small boy then, like you said yesterday, you were not born in the 60s when that coup took place, the first coup. Thanks very much once again. What I want just to add is this. Yesterday, someone seems to be angry about mentioning a particular tribe. Yes, you have made us to understand now that that coup supposed not to be. I mean, sorry, that guy made us to understand that that coup was not supposed to be mentioned. I mean, Igbo name supposed not to be mentioned. If you want to call it a coup, you can call it a Southeast coup, like you are just like you are telling us now. Lantan this, Lantan that. All the plateau coup that you mentioned now, they have tried. You see, so the man that went yesterday angrily, you wouldn't blame him. So what I'm trying to say in essence is this. We should not be calling it Igbo coup. It should be Southeast coup or Middle Belt coup or whatever. That will sound better so that some particular side will not be stereotyped. Thank you very much for your efforts and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Amechi. But the truth remains that this is on the basis of opinion. It's opinionated. Like for me, I do not think the January 15 national the January 15 coup of 1966 was an Igbo coup. I can never call that an Igbo coup because it had nationalistic bearing. So I won't call it an Igbo coup, but that is my opinion as a person. So we all have rights to our opinion. Then if someone else decides to call it an Igbo coup, then let's just accept it. This is one thing we must learn to do. Let's learn to tolerate ourselves the way we are. Let's learn to tolerate ourselves. So it doesn't really matter whether it's an Igbo coup or not an Igbo coup or Southeast coup. The truth is that there was a coup on the 15th of January 1966. There was a coup. People were killed. The Prime Minister of the Federation was killed. The Federal Minister for Finance was murdered. The Adjutant General Nigerian Army, that is Lieutenant Colonel James Yakubu Pam, was killed. The Quartermaster General Nigerian Army, Lieutenant Colonel Ato Chinyelu Negbe, was murdered. So a lot of people were killed, and Nigeria has never been the same till today. So whether we like it or not, so that is the truth. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
This is Leo, the radio senator, calling from Abata.
Oh, the radio senator, you're welcome.
Good morning, my brother.
Yeah, good morning.
You are doing well, my brother.
Thank you.
You see, let us just remove sentiment in whatever we are talking. I've listened to you since yesterday and today, and we are still making a lot of mistakes. You see, my brother, that 1966 coup is an Igbo coup. Whether anybody likes it or not, whether you two like it or not, it's an Igbo coup. In a situation whereby you have 9 principal officers, all were Igbo except one. What do you call it? Southeast is from where does Southeast located? Southeast is Igbo. So why are we talking? Why are we being sentimental? We are always comfortable when we call other people's names. But when you are being called, you will become offended and agitated. It doesn't make sense. It is an Igbo coup. The one that happened just of recent is an outside coup. 16 principal officers are outside except one. It's an outside coup, whether anybody likes it or not. So we should call a spade a spade. We should know that things that are not well, you're not supposed to participate in that. You just mentioned now about the plateau coup. Then will anybody say anything about that? We all know that about 39 principal officers in 1976 coup, they're all middle belt coup, especially plateau. So what are we talking about? So we should be suspect in whatever we are talking about. There's no sentiment in whatever you are doing. You are doing well. You are giving us the history of this thing, how things was done, so that nobody will be putting the perspective of this and that. Things are not done that way. Let us call it spade a spade. These are the things that are bringing problems in this country. Somebody will be comfortable when you call another person's name, when you sterilize another person, when you are being called, you become agitated. That is not how it's supposed to be. Things are not supposed to be done like that. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, the radio senator.
Continue giving us what has happened before. Some of us we have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the radio senator. Thanks a lot for your contribution. We're going on this short break, and when I come back, I'll make some recommendations. I have some interesting catalog here, and you can get them. For those of you that are in George, even those of you that are outside of George, you can get the hard copies of these books. They are here with me. I'll make recommendations. We are going on one music break. We'll be right back. Please don't go nowhere. That me I go yan ko. I go yarn.
You know there.
Wow. I know if you download that.
I don't know like keep up.
Okay.
Because I'm still coming in and saying music like I'm still coming.
There's a place that I know they call Nigeria, in the heart of Africa, in the center of the
This one they okay.
Nah.
This one they nice.
people call their home. There's a place that I know they call Nigeria, in the heart of Africa, in the center of the world, where the most beautiful people call their home. It's a place where rivers flow, mountains high, and savannah grows. Nigeria, where milk and honey flow. It's a place where peace and justice reign, where people love one another. Nigeria is my home. Yes, it is. Oh yeah, 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 oh yeah. Wale Yagaba, 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 Wale Yagaba. Soluya, 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 Soluya Yagaba. Oh Lord, we thank you for your goodness and mercy, your blessings on us, guide us. Now we pray to be a nation of your creation, oh God.
What? Yeah, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, the program remains Issues in Perspective. It's a class of history and current affairs. I know how we do it here. You will also call to make your contributions and also tell us, give us some information about the issues that we don't know about. It's very important. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Honestly, God bless you for the history you are giving to us and the reflection of memory of the past. We are grateful, more grateful you are able, sir.
Thank you very much.
The only thing is that when people are complaining of Igbo cube or no Igbo cube, they may be right or they may be wrong. Because from the history you are giving us today, you say it's a plateau state, you say it's a plateau cube, and plateau is a state. It's not a tribe. When somebody labeling a whole tribe as a two plotters, and that thing has been what people have been using against us, against the Igbos, till today. To that time, I know that from that is January, when you were stressing up this history, somebody called you, and he said that, what are these people talking? That after all, he said that put us in a condition we find ourselves. Why? What are you saying that they're claiming that we have been marginalized? Why? Then they cause the problem we're having today. I think that a cube is an interest. It's a game of interest. It's a game of interest. That means where military, test policies, through any means. A cube can be bloody or peaceful, depending on whom that is involved. And since that 16 January, this is 6 cube. There has been a coup that has been happening in Nigeria. And nobody have had it, I haven't had that coup against any tribe or any state. Nigeria is still moving on. So at least I'm just saying that today somebody called and he said that if somebody who did not study English as a single honor, to not call this program. Now this program is made for those that study English. I had it and I know it. So all those things, you are here to learn, please. You are here to learn. So that you are, so that you earlier said. So that we will find a way forward on how to move Nigeria forward. God bless you, my brother.
Thank you very much for your contribution, though you didn't tell us your name. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Yes, now internationally, we'll talk about Oscar Pistorius and River Steenkamp. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning.
Yeah.
My name is James. I'm calling from Rayfield.
James from Rayfield, you're welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. You see, why the first group was called Igbo coup was that, number one, the majority of the people that perpetrated that coup, they are from Southeast. Number two, the majority of people killed at that very particular time, they are from Southwest and the North. None was killed in the Southeast. What do you want us to say about that? Because today, the Igbos do not want us to call it Igbo coup. But that time, all Sadana was killed, Tawabale was killed, the premier of Western region was killed, the middle belters, they were killed. None. Even Zik then was, had the tip, and he traveled. He said he went for a medical something somewhere.
Yeah, but a senior, but a senior Igbo officer,
they kill others brutally.
a senior Igbo officer from the southeast was killed.
So you see, so for this reason, they should just keep it. Yeah, that is what happened. They are the one that brought this problem that we face truly. They are the one that have also this hatred. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. But a senior officer, let it be on record that a very senior army officer from the southeast, Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Chinyelo Onyegbe, was murdered in Lagos by an Igbo officer, by Major Chris Anuforo. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, good morning. This is Bob.
Oh, Bob, you're welcome.
Thank you. In fact, I didn't join you on time. I think I joined you when the second man who explained what truly transpired in the first coup of First Republic, 1966 coup. He has explained it all. Let's call a dog his name so we can avoid issues. You understand me? What is the purpose of history? What is the purpose of history? That's what I told to every living human being. History is to let you know what happened in the past and avoid that mistake and avoid repetition. That is the purpose of history. Because if you don't know history, you keep on repeating mistakes. That doesn't help a nation. Even some people don't even know the history of their family. They don't know. They don't know who gave back to their father or to their grandfather. They don't know. So if you don't know, how will you know the history of Nigeria? It's not you that is probably enlightening us from past events. Knowing past events, you have to avoid the mistakes and don't repeat it. That is the purpose of history. Look, we should be very careful in this country. We should absolutely be very, very careful. Coup does not help anybody. Like what Obasanjo used to say when he was a civilian president. He said, if you are a military man and you so much cherish democracy, resign and join politics and contest for any position you want to contest for. Has coup helped Nigerians? Haven't you had enough of coup? For God's sake, we should be very, very careful. If you don't know history, if you still have your parents living, your grandfather or your father living, ask them, they will tell you. Then you don't support what does not be the nation. That is just my advice.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks a lot for your detailed contribution. Well, let's take this. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Mr. President,
Yeah, good morning. Aliu Garba from Otonkon Road.
I think this is my third call. I called twice and then it went through, but you guys didn't respond to my call. Anyway, that is for a story for another day. I have to read you, Senator. He has said something. Let's be candid to ourselves for once. You see, when you look at the young military officers that took active part in the first military coup d'etat, were people from the southeastern extraction. And when you look at the southeastern extraction, it's predominantly the Igbos. Let's tell ourselves the truth. This man has said it. Okay, he has said all and done. When it suits your narrative, when name calling suits your narrative, okay, it's going down well. But when it does not suit your narrative, it's actually against you. That is not how this life is supposed to be. That is, I think, that is for this part of the program. You talk about Oscar Pistorius. That is I think that the outlet with the
yes, the Blade Runner, the double amputee.
In South Africa,
2013.
Sorry, 13, right?
Yeah, on Valentine's Day.
Precisely. That is another incident that has happened on the day whereby people are supposed to extend their olive plants. You send love to your loved ones, but unfortunately, that tragic incident happened on that day. Another thing I will have to add to this is by asking a fundamental question. Please, who is Bisala? I want to know more about Bisala.
You know,
and
Bisala.
Then lastly, people should study what we call anger management. Anger is a destructive emotion, and this program is built on a tripod: fairness, equity, and justice. That's why you are fair, well, and balanced when you are giving us history, time, date, and when it was transferred to the past. People should take cognizance of that and then try to ensure decorum when they are calling to make their own input and contribution pertaining what has happened. I think the radio senator has said it all. I'm happy with his genuine and logical submission on this program. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you very much for your call. The accident of Ilya Bisala. Yeah, he was shot and killed by firing squad on the 11th of March 1976. He was a major general in the Nigerian Army and a Minister of Defense under the military administration of General Murtala Mohammed, the fourth Nigerian head of state. General Ilya Bisala was the coursemate of General Hassan Usman Katsina at the Royal Military Academy in Sandos. But let's stop for there for now. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Your name?
I am Kingsley calling from Banking.
Okay, Mr. Kingsley, welcome to the show. Your contribution.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Please, Ferdinand, can it be any reaction without any action?
No.
Can there ever be any reaction without any action?
Of course not.
I want to go back to that Igbo coup. Can you please tell us what led to that Igbo coup?
There are retinue of issues.
Because I think we are studying history. Before those young soldiers decided to take up arms against the government, please, can you tell us what leads to that? So that we can be able to know where we started and why it becomes the Igbo coup.
Okay.
Please, I want to know more about that, please, so that all the other people that have called in this program can understand what is going on.
Okay.
Because I believe there is no any reaction without action. You can't just stand up and slap me now without you doing me something. Please tell us what happened before that coup, so that we can put this straight.
Yeah, thank you very much. The immediate reason for the January 15, 1960s military coup was the Operation Wete in southwestern Nigeria, in the west, in 1965, following the highly controversial Western Nigerian election of that year, which it was alleged that the government of the Northern People's Congress had to assist for Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola and his faction to win. At that time, before the election of Western Nigeria in 1965, there was a serious political misunderstanding between SL Akintola and the former premier, who was at that point in time a member of the House of Representatives, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And at the end, they couldn't get to a truce, and it created massive misunderstanding between the followers of these two men. And following the Western Nigerian election, there was a bloodbath, massive bloodbath that led to the death of over 20,000 people in southwestern Nigeria and destruction of properties worth over £2 billion at the time. And the military had to take over on the 15th of January 1960. That was the immediate cause. But there were other causes. There was the 1960 rebellion by members of the United Middle Belt Congress, led by Joseph Tucker in Makurdi, which translated to the Middle Belt agitation of the 1960s, between 1960 and 1964. That problem was there. Then there was the 1964 federal election that was highly contentious, and Nigerians were not happy. There's also the census figure of 1962 that was botched and was redone in 1963. So there are a lot of issues, but the immediate issue, according to the plotters, was Operation Wete in 1965. And also, the plotters felt that the Sardauna of Sokoto was trying to Islamize the whole country, but that has never been proven. So let us not dwell on that. That has never been proven. So these issues were there, and they had to strike in the early morning hours of 15 January of 1966. Then let's leave there now and look at someone who talked about. Hello, good morning. Your name?
Hello. Good morning, Ferdinand.
Yeah, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning. Sorry, I've not been following for a while now. This is Mr. K.
Okay, K, you're welcome.
Hello?
K from Holshe, all right?
Yes.
Okay, you're welcome.
2 days I've not really contributed and followed. I've not been able to, but thank you for always doing what you do. Another thing I want to say is we must learn to look at history, without emotions or sentiments, because history is not absolutely completely mean that is who we are presently, because sometimes history, is just history as it is. Because especially people that are coming from the eastern, southeastern, extraction, why we say that is an evil school. Listen, today we are talking about Fulani bandits. They keep saying Fulani are bandits. And the same person that we see that's not an evil school. When a majority or a population or an influential number of a tribe supports or does something, it's normal. Generalizations are normal in society where we are. When Nigeria is being called a corrupt country, it's not as if it doesn't mean that we don't have people who are I thought in fact the same person who is calling people is not an evil. Many times they insult politicians, they say politicians are these, you understand? So when an overwhelming majority and the aftermath of that coup, if you notice, there was no condemnation from the eastern part. There was no condemnation like publicly, and there was jubilation and celebration. In fact, imagine that. Remember that there was even a song that was written, against Amadou Sardauna that came from the southeast. There was no major voices from the southeast who disassociate themselves from the coup. And even so that of course already means that there's a coloration of the support of the southeast. So let's not begin to try to say accepting the fact does not mean anything. All of us know that people change, people's ideology, but even take things from that time, especially from the South. In the South, it has never tried to, every time they have never tried to be part of Nigeria. They always try to see Nigeria as they are separate from Nigeria, I am from the Middle Belt. Many times when I've traveled to the Southeast, they call all of us Hausa, but I'm not Hausa. I have my tribe, but they also call us Hausa. So that is generalization. You get it? So generalization is normal in society. So then
I want you to know. Yeah, we don't have a lot of time again. But let me just tell you, for those of you following us on social, we don't have a lot of time again. But let me just tell you, for those of you following us on social media, I have the books here. This is Obasanjo, My Command, an account of the Nigerian Civil War, 1967 to 1970. I have it here. Then I have this one too. Fighting corruption is dangerous. The story behind the headlines. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. I have this book, a very interesting book. If you read this book, you know that to be an activist is not a day's business. Then I have Why We Struck. Why We Struck, the story of the first military coup, the first Nigerian coup, written by Major Adewale Ademoyega, is right here with me. There are some other accounts I have at home, like the Nigeria's Five Major by Captain Ben Bule. I have that one too. Then I have Oil, Politics and Violence, Nigeria's Military Coup Culture between 1966 and 1979 by Mark Solium. I think I have his contact now. I'll try and call him and put him on the show one of these days. Mark Solium. Then Military History, Nigeria from Pre-Colonial Era to the Present, edited by Major General John W.T. Bo. This is a chief officer. Well, we'll talk about this in the coming days. We don't have a lot of time. Thank you very much for being part of the show today. For the person asking about Ilia Bisala, we'll give you a retinue, a complete rundown on the history of Ilia Bisala by tomorrow. On behalf of every member of the production crew, I remain Umbum Ferdinand signing out. Tomorrow we'll be here again together. Thank you.